Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This, of course, is another anime reaction video. Today, we are getting into the last two episodes, technically last, the last two episodes before the last episode, whatever you want to call it, because there's technically an OVA after this. As far as I know, it's completely unconnected, it's just like random stories after the fact. Might watch it, might not, I really don't know yet. But we're coming to the last two episodes of this entire series because unlike, you know, other things, this being an original series, once this is over, as far as I know, there's no potential for a sequel. It's probably going to have like a conclusive ending. There's no way they can milk it for money because it's probably not as popular as other series too, by the way. But in this last episode, well, in the last episode before these last two episodes, we unfortunately lost the objectively nicest character in the entire series, Corteo. Unfortunately, Bruno has had to sacrifice him by his own hands, even, in order to try and get his revenge for what happened to him in the past. And it's really quite sad to lose Corteo because, again, like I said, he is one of the nicest people in the entire cast. You know, he did break the law. You know, most people in the series have broken the law at one point. You know, I think maybe Delphi hasn't, which was the cop that showed up and then was gone by the halfway point of the episode. And he broke the law, sure, but he never wanted to hurt nobody. He just wanted to go to school. And to be fair, the law he did break was the fucking the anti-alcohol whatever law during Prohibition. And as we all know, in hindsight, that was the stupidest decision, you know, they could have made, banning alcohol. Don't know who thought that was a good idea, but obviously it didn't work out. So technically, by modern standards, Corteo did nothing wrong. And when he did kill Fongo, it was under threat, so you could count that as self-defense, or at least I can morally justify it because Fongo was also a psychopath. But what I do know now is that this has been a really cruel twist of fate for Corteo, but it means that Bruno really has to go through with his full revenge. He has to get done. Like, I like Nero, but he's got to die. Him and Vincent, his father, they've both got to die, or else. And you know what? The fourth guy too there, because I assume that was the fourth guy. The guy who wrote the letter was the fourth guy there. He's got to die too. He's got Nero or Angelo, even if it's like paining him to do so because he's gotten attached to like Nero even. He's got to go through with it. Otherwise, Corteo's death will be in vain, and we really wouldn't want that. We wouldn't, because it's not technically anybody's fault except for the Venetti families. But we've gotten so deep. Obviously, we've gotten already deep, but it's gotten even deeper. We've gone even deeper than before by Corteo ending up having to die just for Angelo to get his revenge. So if he doesn't get his revenge, might be a little bit upset. Unless they somehow pull a fast one and make me be like, nah, you can't do this, Angelo. You can't do this. You know what I mean? But without further ado, I'm going to get started. I've been talking too long. As always, unless you're new here, there will be links down in the description below, which will take you to the full-length, uncut reaction. So go ahead and watch the reaction over there, then come back to YouTube for the discussion. So without further ado, let's get into episode 11 of 91 Days. I should have expected something like that because there is still one episode after this, episode 12. But fuck. These two episodes clearly keeping up that trend of each episode getting more intense than the last. And god damn it if this didn't fucking deliver in like the intensity, you know what I mean? Like, holy shit. Like, first of all, there's so much going on. It's such like a complicated, I keep bringing up the political thriller thing, but it is like a complicated political thriller. Keep throwing fucking curves left and right. The Galaccios coming in, seeming like they want to muscle in on the fucking on the Venettis. I mean, obviously because the Fongo family fell after Fongo was killed. Well, maybe not entirely fell, but it was left in disarray after Fongo was killed. You know, the old Venetti is dying. The new Venetti is inexperienced. It seemed almost like the Galaccios are like, you know what? Now's our chance to just take over entirely. This is all gonna be ours now. There's no point in it, you know, trying to make peace anymore. And I can't believe it. Are we gonna end this entire series with Bruno having ended crime, like all crime? Because Fongo's dead, Vincent's dead, Don Galacio is dead, Nero might die. Like, shit, dude. They'll be disorganized, and if they could actually, and if the mob is disorganized, and, you know, the police aren't getting their, you know, little their side business. You know, they're not getting their bribes. They're gonna start cracking down. You know, unless somebody can take charge. But who would that even be? You know, because Gonzo's dead, Glasses, he's dead. The people who were with them for a long time and probably want to move up to a leadership position at least at some point, like Gonzo. But then there's the one guy with the Glacios who was like siding with Gonzo and killed Gonzo. He might die too. So I don't know what's going to go on in regards to that, but holy shit. Was there some twists in here that I wasn't expecting? Bruno must have known that Vincent was suffering from one of those non-specific diseases where you just cough up blood and can't walk very good. So that's why he's like, you know what? I want to kill you by my own hands, but you know what? It seems like Bruno, he's fine with his revenge being carried out by like different hands, as long as they're dead. It doesn't have to be by his own hands, which is, you know, that's admirable, because that means he's fine with just inflicting suffering onto Vincent in his dying moments, killing his good friend, and then letting him slowly die from his whatever. Gonzo getting shot up by someone from the Galazias. Fuck. God damn it. I'm so scared to watch the next episode, especially because that means it'll be over, and it's just like, shit. I'll have to find a new series or something, or just like, instead of that, just increase the frequency of like Gintama and other series or whatever. But god damn it, great episode. I'm super excited to get to the next episode, so I'm gonna go do that now. Like I said, that's not how I expected the series to end. I thought it was gonna be a lot more based on the opening, seeing them in like that fucking whatchamacallit, in like a room together with like guns and shit from like the OP. I was not expecting that's how it was gonna end. Gee, I don't know. I have to think about that. Is that... Because it's definitely a very conclusive ending. It's over. Bruno, for the most part, got his revenge. You know, Gonzo, Vano, Vincent, they're all dead. But the one person he formed a real connection with outside of Corteo, his new best friend, so to speak. Well, not new, but his other best friend that he made while he was being undercover. Ended up putting him down because... well, I don't know, because it wasn't really worth doing anymore, because he didn't want to kill him. He just wanted to be done with this whole thing now that he had sort of got his revenge, you know what I mean? I don't normally like really like, because I can't recall very many like revenge stories that I've watched. I've watched Old Boy 2003 obviously, so, and that's my favorite revenge story. 91 Days, it'll go there as my second favorite revenge story, because, and this is something that I heard during because I watched the Anime Man when I've only watched the Anime Man like a little bit, and I watched his interview with the creator of whatchamacallit, Redo of Healer, that show, that revenge series, and he pointed out that a lot of revenge series, and I don't know how true this is, but that would make sense. This is like they get the revenge out of the way, and then they just turn into like a fantasy series, you know what I mean? So the fact that it's pretty much stayed, like 91 Days was consistently a revenge story throughout the whole thing, that's really cool to see. And like, it was a roller coaster. It just kept getting more and more intense as things go, and I think it's probably good that they ended the series with Bruno dying, because it not only does it bring it round full circle to being like, oh, I couldn't kill him then, but I finally have killed him, you know, type thing, that kind of like circle thing, but also just because, not necessarily tortured in like the common sense, like characters like, let's say Joel from The Last of Us or Snake from Metal Gear Solid, those are tortured characters. Or Guts from Berserk, that's a good one. Characters who have kept pushing on despite all the shit that keeps getting thrown at them. And I'd say he's similar in that vein. And not all characters like that have to end by dying and finally being free from all this suffering. But in the case of Nero, I think it's definitely very appropriate that that's how he went. You know, he got most of his revenge done. You know, he probably started feeling less so as the series went on that he wanted to get revenge on Nero because he got close to Nero as a person, you know. And he, of course, he didn't actually. Well, did he actually kill anyone? I can't remember. But you know, so it's kind of thematically appropriate too that because in that way that Nero was finally putting Bruno down. In that way, that was kind of also a form of revenge, you know. But the thing is that because of whatchamacallit, now that he has this sort of like new perspective in a way that or at least he has that philosophy of that it doesn't matter if you don't have a purpose to live, you just keep on living anyway. It seems like he's handling things a little bit better here from the little bit we saw him after killing Bruno. Man. It wasn't... How do I describe this? Not the most satisfying thing in the world, and I think that's just... I don't know how to describe it, but... I think even though it didn't end the way I expected it to, I'm still super glad that I came on this ride anyway. Because from start to finish, this was a thrilling revenge story, you know. And it's always that thing of like, it's not the destination that matters, it's the journey type thing. And I think that's true of this series because I did really enjoy everything that led up to the end of this series. You know, seeing all of Bruno's trickery, all of the mystery around certain aspects. You know, the shifting like. Balance of power when Don Orco was killed and Fongo came into power. That was all so well executed. Like I was fully like engaged in the story through and through. It was great. I'm also really glad that I watched the show just because purely of like the aesthetic of it, like the art style and like the time period and the music. And I did, you know what? I'm pretty happy that I decided to go with the dub for this because it was enjoyable to listen to, and it's not. And what's great about it is that the accents weren't ear grating. You know what I mean? I don't know if they're necessarily accurate because I'm not Italian. I am friends with somebody who's like at least part Italian, but they don't have an accent. I don't know how accurate it is, but if I had to make it a comparison, it's nowhere near as bad as the English dub for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 2. I thought the accents... Oh, Part 1 and Part 2. I thought the accents were... Ugh. They were terrible. They hurt my ears to listen to. Which is, especially Caesar's voice, because he's supposed to be Italian. I thought the accent was garbage. This felt... At least it felt more natural. Even if it's not necessarily realistic. It sounded a lot better. So... With that being said, I have a hard time. I'm fluctuating between like a 7 and an 8 for this show. If I had to give it a number, because on one hand it was an amazing like wild ride. There was some aspects that I wish got fleshed out a bit more. Unfortunately, they weren't. But I think that's just like that's the nature of a 21 or a 12 episode season. They could only really introduce parts of like cool ideas without being able to fully flesh them out, but they introduced them nonetheless, and they were interesting to think about. And even though there weren't like a huge amount of characters that were deeply like explored, the ones that we did get fully explored were just like they were really well done, especially Bruno himself. He was such an interesting protagonist to watch, to see him on his quest for revenge, and to see the way he grew as a character and as a person through the killing as things went on. You know what I mean? As more people died, as people he died, as he got closer to Nero as a person. Nero of himself was also a really interesting character. Corteo, obviously. Fongo was probably the most entertaining out of all of them, just because of his fucking wild antics. And the shit with the Orcos, and him running his own family, and eventually meeting his own demise. And while not the most satisfying ending in the world, I think it is very thematically appropriate, and I still think it's a good ending. But to be fair, now that I'm thinking about it, having having it end with Bruno killing Nero, especially with the relationship they've built up. It wouldn't. Now that I think about it, maybe that wouldn't have been the most satisfying. I think it's best ended the way it did end. So, I'll give it an 8. 8 out of 10. Very good show. Loved it. If you enjoyed this video, thank you very much for watching, first of all, if you watched all the way to this point. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload in the future. Don't know what I'm going to do after this, because of reasons. I'm not going to go any further than that, but thank you once again for watching. Peace.